Welcome everybody to episode 7 of the Lure Fishing Podcast, and I'm here with Charlie. And Charlie, it's been about 3 years since we last did one.
Feels like longer, mate, if I'm totally honest.
It's crazy, isn't it? Was it August, do you reckon, or earlier?
I reckon it was, yeah. Well, at least we would have filmed it in August, I think. I don't know if it was maybe released in September, but yeah, it was definitely August last time we sat in front of a camera.
We meant to do one, I think last week or the week before, and I phoned you up, didn't I? And said, I can't be asked.
Yeah, and it was a mutual feeling. In fact, I'm still only just getting over the man flu I had at the time. I've still got a bit of a cough, so I've got a glass of water to hand just in case. Yeah, innit? Yeah. That's about the reaction I've had off of everyone, including my missus as well. So
yeah, you don't get any sympathy, do you, with man flu?
No.
But you've recovered now.
Yeah, I feel fine. Just a little bit coffee still, but yeah, fine.
You need some Viagra.
I don't think I do.
We had a conversation off air that I'm not going to. Yeah. Let's leave that there. Yeah. Right. So I think it's fair to say that our attempts to get a podcast out every 2 weeks has failed miserably.
Totally miserably. Yeah.
But it's life, isn't it? That's what happens. So we're going to try and continue to get one out every 2 weeks to keep the innuendos going. Not the Viagra, but things may not come to aspirations as we want them to, because things get in the way, don't they? So
life happens, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, we'll try. Everyone watching this, we will try, but we can't promise. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're at episode 7, so we've done quite well so far. That we've kept it going, I think.
Yeah.
With all our planning, but also I've had a massive gap, and lots of things happened. So in September we had the World Championships for the boat team in Ireland. You had the kayak comp, which we think we spoke about, but we may not have done. We can't remember.
Can't remember. No.
You have one of your waters up north on Derwent Water.
Yeah.
And then recently you've had a pike bank event.
Yep.
And there's been a couple of LAS events at Chew and at Rutland, which we'll talk about in a bit as well. So there's been quite a lot that's been going on. But should we go back to September for the World Championships?
Yeah. Did it actually? I thought it was October. You was there from September, was you not?
Oh, that's what it was. October. It was October the 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Yeah.
Obviously, we went at some time in September, and I lost track of time.
Yeah.
Who I was, days. It was crazy, mate. It was just when you look back, it was crazy. The whole thing was
bit of a blur.
It was a blur, actually, but that was more to do with I think boat issues. But it was it was good. It was very good. We'll talk about it now, shall we? It'd be easy if you ask me some questions, really, because, like I said,
yeah, I mean,
it was just a crazy time.
We have spoken about it briefly in passing and phone calls and things, but I'm sure a lot of people outwardly were viewing it and seeing the story as it progressed through social media and from the practice right the way through to the event. So I think we was all aware, maybe not to the extent, but you and Dan were having some sort of boat issues even before the event itself started.
Yeah, well, we have to be careful what we put on social media. So when you're part of the England setup, regardless of whether it's bank, boat or kayak, you actually shouldn't put certain things on social media, because obviously you're trying to work out locations, lures, feeding patterns, so many things. You've got to be careful what you put out there. So we didn't actually post much, because obviously we wanted to try and keep things under wraps, basically. So the one thing that we were posting about was the boat issues, because we needed some help out there. So long story short, the craziest thing happened to the boat engine, which I still can't get my head around now. Day one we went out practicing. We're just trying lots of different things. We're trying to catch pike in the shallows. Couldn't catch any pike in the shallows at all, for one simple reason. They weren't there.
Yeah.
So we were there was lots of perch. Bait fish were incredible, so we targeted perch, catching those, small pike in the perch pods. Day 2 we went out. This is where it gets crazy. I had my first 3 casts. I had 107. No, my first cast using the scope, I had a 107 centimetre pike. Second cast on the scope, I had a 90 centimetre pike. I hit one blind, it was casting blind, that came off. So my third cast on the scope, I had a 93 centimetre pike, all on really big baits. So we're thinking, we're getting somewhere. Engine wouldn't start. What's going on? So we managed to limp in to not back to base, but a resort close by, and we had still to this day, I don't know if he was Romanian, Ukrainian, or some other nationality. This guy who worked there helped us out. He tried to help us with starting the engine with batteries, and he contacted a Irish guy who lived literally 2 minutes away. This is only in Ireland. This guy who lived locally was dealing with electric engines for different companies who had one leg.
Right.
You're thinking, really? He was lovely. He drove to where we were, had a quick look, said, guys, get their boat back to my house. And he pointed up the hill to where he lives. So we got the boat up there. He had an hour before we had to go to the airport, and he was actually expat, but he'd been living in Ireland for 30 years, so it was all like crazy stuff. He tried to check basic things. He couldn't find out what the problem was. He then contacted a guy who had a marine company, which was only 10 minutes away. We managed to book in with him for that evening. He had the boat the next day, so obviously we're not out fishing. He kind of did a workaround because he found out the problem. We went to collect the boat the following day, took it to the slipway, it wouldn't start. Kind of going, right. Took it back to the guy who was the guy doing the electrics on it.
Yeah.
Took the hood off. He touched one of the connectors to the power. Basically, what it was on these big engines. You have a fuel pump, and when you turn the ignition on before it fires up, you can hear it gush. It goes. Yeah. So you can hear that the fuel pump's working because as you turn it one notch, it will click. Yeah. So because the fuel pump wasn't working, so we knew it was either the fuel pump or electrical problem to the fuel pump. This guy who we took the boat to literally touched the connector and the fuel pump started. So we knew it was a loose connection. So Lucas, who was still with us, whose boat it was, and Daniel, used their Polish connections in Ireland. And they sourced a 90 or 70 horsepower Suzuki that one of the guys had just for spares. So then we did an hour and a half drive that evening to past Mullingar, I always say it wrong, where we picked up another guy who was Polish, then went to this other house, so it's getting dark, so we're taking this engine apart, trying to find the appropriate connector. So it's like, what's going on? Found it, cut off as much as we could, as much lead as we could, got home about 10 o'clock. Next morning we take the connector back to the electrical guy, who was amazed we could find it. Basically, 2 or 3 hours later he managed to fit it. We took the boat back, so we lost 3 days, took the boat back down the slipway. It started, but then all this hydraulic fluid was pissing out of the back. Oh, God. The hydraulic bar, somehow that had come undone. So there's no steering. And you kind of go, what is happening now? So I then shopped to the local town, found a auto part place that sold hydraulic steering for outboards. Yeah. So we topped up the hydraulics and then it was fine. But then the engine would start sometimes. So it was like, we've gone through all this and then out on the water, we couldn't get it to start. So one day we had to get towed back in. And then halfway back, Daniel managed to get the boat started. And that's when Daniel started to work out there was a loose connection somewhere. And trial and error, we knew it was to do with the relays on the fuses to the electrical components of the boat. Right. So even up to the final day, it was still not starting. We were taking the hood off and having to. It was just a nightmare. We lost so much time in practice. But the important thing was, if you remember, I said that second day, I had those 3 fish on those big baits. Mm-hmm. Well, because you're not panicking, because you're trying to learn so many things about the water. I think we lost sight of that a little bit. Yeah. And we were then trying to catch fish on different methods that weren't working, whereas in reality, the best method was just big baits. Yeah. So the teams that did really well, they were just using really big baits. But the interesting thing was, having watched them from afar, they weren't just casting them and retrieving them or trying to trigger the pike with speed to retrieve. They were actually banging the baits physically with the rods. And they were doing different things to try and get the pike to turn and stimulate. So it was really interesting watching these techniques, which were trying to replicate on our waters. And it's interesting, on some waters they work to a degree, and other waters they don't work at all. But also, it wasn't just that, it was the way they were able to find fish really quickly.
Yeah.
And also the way they had different roles within the boat. So the Lithuanians, for example, who smashed everybody outside, in their two boats, there's a pair in each boat. They did the same thing. They had two rods made up, both with one lure on each rod. They never changed these lures. They stayed the same. They knew they were going to work.
Yeah.
One guy was driving the boat, scoping the fish and netting the fish. The other guy was casting and catching. So the driver's driving the boat, scoping. They'd find one. They'd get the boat in position really early on finding the fish so it would stay in position with the spot lock, or even just turn the engine off and cast to it. No spot lock. So it's one cast. If they didn't get it to stimulate, they might try a second cast or the other rod. If they didn't get the fish to take, they'd move off it.
Yeah.
Speed, bang, bang. It was phenomenal watching them. I learned so much. So, so went off on a tangent there, but it was the boat situation didn't help us. It was just one of those freakish things. We lost complete thought process of where we were, probably understandably, because we're trying to do too much in a short period of time. And then watching these teams who were doing really well, it was wow. It was incredible. So, learned so much. Come back.
Well, it goes to show that we as an angling nation are still quite early on in our development and probably have a long way to go to catch up. I think that's probably what highlights it the most.
Well, we're nowhere near. We came 13th out of 15th, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, because I think we came in the right place.
Yeah.
There are no crap teams in the boat comps. If you think about that, it's quite incredible the resources that are being thrown into this from lots of nations. The Ukraine team, for example, are government funded. They have an incredible setup. Most of the teams came not with two boats, but with either 3 or 4 boats, and they all had a big support team.
Yeah.
So we were getting back in the evenings. Forget the boat problems. We were getting back in the evenings knackered. We needed somebody to be cooking for us.
Yeah.
And what about your clothes? Luckily, managed to speak to the people running the resort, and they did a laundry service. But it's all these little things that you don't think about.
Yeah.
So each evening, we'd go down to a local pub, which was a 20, 25-minute drive each way. You're eating chips, steak, drinking Guinness, which sounds lovely, but it's okay for 1 or 2 days. But once you into your second week, your stomach's gurgling away at night, you're full. You know what I mean? You wake up, have breakfast, don't eat throughout the day, smash in loads of calories in the evening, and you just start to feel like shit, really. Because you're not eating properly. Whereas we needed to go back to the chalets we were staying in. Someone would be there cooking food for us, so we could sit down as a team, discuss the day, have some food, do a bit of prep, stretch your legs, go for a walk because you have a bit of time, get some air into your lungs. 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, crash out, wake up at 5, ready to go again. These other teams who have done that, they had all these logistical things set up behind the scenes. And it does make a massive difference. It's incredible. I must mention the Irish team. They had 2 pairs. 2 of the lads were, I think they're from Cork, and I'll remember all their names in a minute. They were brilliant. And the other pair were they're Polish anglers who have got Irish citizenship, who were basically guiding on the lake. They struggled to a degree on the lake. Not quite as badly as we did, but nearly. But the 2 guys who live near Cork, holy moly, they smashed it outside. They fished. They didn't practice. I think they only practiced on their practice days, but they knew how Irish pike would respond. So they just fished the venue and just fished it like it was the first day. Second day, they fished it like it was the first day. Third, they knew these fish would still be aggressive, and hats off to them, they were superb. And I think they came 2nd overall as well, 2nd or 3rd overall, I can't remember. They did really well. But that was interesting to watch. They kept it really simple, but they knew how the fish would respond. And that was another thing, that simple things, but you don't pick them up until afterwards. So that was really good as well. I must shout out the resort we stayed at, Charlie, was phenomenal. The people there were so helpful. I mean, they knew we were struggling with all the logistics and of the boat and everything, and they were so good. But going back to what you said, it's made me realise of how base our knowledge is. Not basic, but base. So we chuck a shad, and And how many different types of retrieve would you have for, I don't know, a 18, 20 centimetre shad? You'd slow roll it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
They would have 6, 7, 8 different types of retrieves that they would do with that one bait to try and stimulate a take.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't have the background in the sport to have any of this type of knowledge. And that's where we're struggling. It's not chucking a bait out. I used to think lure fishing was using that bait in the most effective way.
Yeah.
But now I'm understanding that a lot of these baits, you need to have 4 or 5 effective ways of using them, not just one. And
how do we improve then? Is it variation of water?
Yeah, it's variation of water. I think we need to rub shoulders with anglers on the continent and basically pick their brains. It's no good. So if I'll give you an analogy, I'll go on. I'll come back on this later. But we had the LAS Predator Cup at Rutland. Not being big-headed, but I know now I need to smash these events to be any good on the international scene, because these good international anglers would wipe the floor with everybody. Big time. So I wanted to go on there. So Saturday we smashed the granny out of it, mate. We had the 4 big perch, averaging 45 centimetres. We had 2 pike of 223 centimetres. Brilliant. We caught Zander in the evening. We just needed 3 Zander the following day. We knew we'd won the comp already, but we were smashed everybody outside. We couldn't trigger the Zander. On the second day, we didn't catch a Zander that scored. We didn't catch a Zander at all. We tried all day, and I was so disappointed. We'd won the event, we'd won the Perch Cup, and I said to Dan Brackley, I said, Dan, I just feel like we've so underperformed here. And he said, why? I said, these good international anglers would have caught those 3 Zander, and we didn't have the toolkit to do it. Yeah. And I spoke to Alex Mason and people like Jim Starr, and they said, well, no one would have caught those fish. I said, I think they would have done, mate. What I've been picking up from the Worlds and also fishing WPC in Holland, I do think that we're very stereotypical in our approach to these fish. Yeah. And these reservoir venues are great and they've got huge fish in, but once we've got the hang of 1 or 2 techniques so we know locations, I think then it's very easy to fall into the trap of just replicating it. Yeah. And if you're a replicator, you're only going to catch some of the fish. Yeah. If you're a innovator, you're going to catch more. Yeah. I think it's about being really innovative. What's the word? Innovative. Not being a carp angler. And by that I mean, I see lots of lure anglers want to know the method, how to use a crankbait. They just replicate it. You go, no. Yeah. It's not. Which is the magic bait? No, it don't work like that. You've got to actually work out. There's a whole range of baits that work and how you can fish them in different methods. And we don't have the years of lure fishing within our community to give us that. If you think, like, I'm not being funny, but most European countries used to lure fish for the table. Yeah. So if you go to all these European countries, that lure fishing was get food from the family. So if you go back to just beyond the Second World War, poverty-stricken. Yeah. If they didn't catch their food, they'd starve. Yeah. Now, what motivational force have you got there? It's huge, isn't it? Yeah. So then basic lures, you'd have to learn lots of different retrieves with basic lures because there wasn't anything. No. So if you think, at least on the continent up to the 90s, the types of lure that were being used were very basic, so they had to develop lots of different ways of using them. So that information's now been disseminated through thousands of anglers within their community, depending on what country you're looking at. Therefore, the depth of quality of angler from different countries is massive compared to us. So you look at some of these teams, we were talking to them at the presentation about qualification. We were sat next to the Latvians, and theirs is small. So they were telling us that their 2 pairs had qualified 3 years before. Or it was a 3-year process to qualify, that's right. Right. And they were changing it this year to a 1-year process. And I said, well, how many teams are in the process? And they said between 40 and 45 pairs. So it doesn't sound a lot, but they're in their own boats. Yeah. and they're the ones just qualifying for the national team.
Yeah.
They talk to other countries, and they have areas where there's hundreds of anglers qualifying just to get through to the next stage.
Yeah.
I was talking to Adam Seeley about the bank fishing. The bank fishing is even bigger in these countries. There's several thousands of people trying to get through because they don't need the expensive boat. But if you go back to the boat teams, that's where the really good anglers fish from a boat. So you've got this even bigger problem that we're not just fishing against these guys that are qualified, but all of them that are qualified are mustard.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God. So we have got, the answer is we can't replicate what they know.
No.
All we can do is take a snapshot of what they know and try and use parts of it for these competitions as best we can. Mm-hmm. We're always going to be behind the eight ball trying to catch up with the knowledge, and there's nothing we can do about that, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. I think it's because it's not really the fishing we do as a majority here in the UK, in England especially. There's the pool of anglers we have to pick from is very small, and even within that, right, you could say there's X amount of anglers, however many it would be, that are potentially skillful enough to do it, right, or of a similar level to others. Yeah. Then you have to nail down: do they have the equipment, i.e., the boat? Do they have the boat to do it? Then you've got to say, can they afford to do it? You know, this guy, this Mr. Smith here, is a shit hot mustard angler, really good. Can't afford to go to Ireland for 2 weeks, you know. So therefore, the team misses out because Mr. Smith just can't do it. Can't get the work off 2 weeks. Can't do this. Can't do that. So then you look at the other. I know we discussed it briefly. You know, not that I know it's something I feel that we should work towards, but whether right now in this current climate, I feel like we should be getting funded by the government. Other teams do. You know, some of the European teams, especially. I think even did the American team get funded in some way or another, or at least through sponsorship of some description. I don't know.
Well, the American team's really interesting, and if any of the guys from the team are watching this, they're going to start taking the mick out of me. But when I used to go muskie fishing, Matt Seifert, who was the guide I stayed with, and Brad Hoppy, who has a company called Muskie Man Tackle, they kept talking about this really good walleye professional angler.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all know what bass fishing's like in America, but walleye fishing's really big as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in it. And this guy, they kept talking about, he did the Pro-Am one year when he was the amateur on the back of the boat.
Yeah.
He won the amateur, which helped him become the pro the following year. And then he started smashing the pro scene, and his name was John Moir. So we're there in Ireland, right? And I saw this tall American guy, and they kept calling him John. And one day, I took the mick out of one of the Americans about muskie fishing on the harbour. A guy called Max. And I went, we give the Americans a bit of banter. And I go, so what's your biggest muskie then? Because obviously I've had a massive one.
Yeah.
And he turned around to this guy called John and went, hey John, this guy wants to, what's your biggest muskie, John? And I'm thinking, oh crap, don't tell me that's John Hoyer. No. It was. So I saw, but all the other guys are taking a mick going, oh, muskie friends. But, so the American team have got like John Hoyer in it, who's a professional walleye angler, who must be taking home, I don't know, $500,000 a year from walleye tournaments, dollars.
Yeah.
And so I know that when he fishes a tournament, the next lake is being scouted out by his team.
Yeah.
So these guys have a team of boats that grid the lakes, the next venue. So they'll be gridding it and dropping waypoints of where they think they find walleye. And they give it an area and it overlaps. So basically, two or three boats will overlap areas, and where these waypoints match up, they then give the pro angler the waypoints to then go out and practice. So that just gives you some idea to the extent they do these comps. We've got no clue, no chance.
Mm-hmm.
But so the American team, you've got guys like him in it. So you're kind of going, oh man, we are really up against it.
But did you say the Ukrainian team's government funded?
Yeah, so the Ukrainian team had two big, I don't think they were Rangers, I don't know what type of boats they were, they had 250s on the back.
Yeah.
They had a third boat that seemed to be the same model but different colour, and they had a fourth boat that was supporting them. And I know that they thought the wind was going to get up on the third day, and I think they purchased 2 300s from the local dealer to whack on the back of his boats if they thought the wind was getting up.
What?
Oh yeah. Crazy. We went past where they were staying. We just you have days. We had a day where we couldn't fish, or 2 on the actual venue, but you could fish above or below the cutoff.
Yeah.
So we went below, and we motored straight past where they were staying because we saw the boats in a little mooring. It was like a palace they were staying in. Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're government funded. Like I said, these other teams have got they've got a lot of people in the teams. Obviously, whether they have a lot of help from, I don't know if they have a lot of help from sponsorship or not, but it's a different world, mate. It's us being English, we did it our way. It was like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting to see where there is potential for us to move forward into these other ways of doing it. How the other teams are doing it, and I don't know. Will we ever get there? I'm not sure, if I'm honest. Like,
well, we've got to take shortcuts. We can't do it long term, and the shortcuts are the guys. We're getting all sorted out with boats, and we're going to be funding ourselves. And we are going to places like Holland and Ireland to do more comps. Mm-hmm. Now I know the next World Championship venues aren't like those, but we can't just go to Estonia for the next.
No,
we've got to actually get a bit more competition sharp.
Yeah.
Get the boat sorted. There's so much to do in a short space of time. So
it's funny, we've in different ways, we've both come to very similar results in the way we're now thinking of the next year or two's competition wise. You know, I said on the last podcast, I think, that I'm not going to be doing any of the Anglian water or those sort of competitions in England next year. It won't be for the same reason as you, but it strikes me as too repetitive for me, and I'm not got any aspirations of getting to your level or Team England or anything like that. I just fish for keeping myself interested, and I've lost the interest in it. So next year I am going to be. We just booked on this week. Me and my pal Chris, we're going to be doing the Predator Battle. Is it Predator Battle Island in Ireland next year? So we're going to do that on his boat. We're looking to do some of the Dutch ones as well at some point. And it's not because I want to compete at a high level; it's just out of interest. But you've got to the same sort of. You and the other guys on the team are realising you have to sort of step away from some of these Anglian water ones and Rutland and Graffham and whoever else, because you're not really gaining anything by winning them. Now you've done it, you sort of like tick the box and moved on. Every time you do one of these comps, you're 50% of the way there before you even get on the water, because you've got so much prior experience of fishing these waters that you don't really learn or gain anything new, or not as much as you would if you was testing yourself by going across to these brand new waters abroad, fishing how you should be in these competitions.
Yeah, it's also there's lots of reasons for feeling like this. But you're right. It's about it's not just. I think it's about you can grow so much.
Yeah,
and that's what happened. I came off the water on Sunday thinking, is this the last time I'm going to fish these comps?
Yeah,
I've got some commitments because I did promise a couple of anglers I would fish with them, or one in particular. But I've got no interest anymore, and I've got no interest in taking all my gear and setting up a hire boat with all my electronics.
Yeah.
To me, it's not what they're designed for. It breaks stuff because they're not designed for all the transporting of it, and the waters are so small. So the LES event was a classic example. I've worked really hard to work out where the perch are. Mm-hmm. And I've got several areas now, haven't I, that I know roughly where to start looking for them.
Yeah.
Well, on the Saturday, no one knew where to go. I knew where to go.
Yeah.
But by Sunday, 5 boats applied it, actually round into one little spot where we caught on Saturday. Mm-hmm. To me, that just sums up the UK scene, or the English lure scene. Guys are replicating, they're not learning. Therefore, how can I learn off these guys if they're just replicating? Yeah. It goes back to what I said earlier. Not too many people's minds are set on, I must know where the spot is, or where is he going? Well, no. I haven't found lots of places on Rutland, but people don't want to learn. Mm-hmm. They're just so focused on the short-term, short short-term effect. You know, there's just a shortcut.
Yeah.
And that's what this constantly pisses me off. It's like, well, I can't learn much because I can't go and speak to somebody about tactics because I know all they want to do is copy what I'm doing. Well, all I'm doing is helping them get to where I am.
Yeah.
I want to actually help myself get better.
Some reciprocal, yeah.
But it's just like, this, I think the scene's stale, if I'm being honest with you. And if anyone takes exception to that, I do apologise, but it's my opinion. I see it too many times. And it's just that's why I don't like people following me. Because I feel they're not actually learning. They're being like, carp anglers don't take take a picture of salt. But I find in carp fishing, this is the biggest problem, isn't it? You've got a lot.
Yeah.
This is the pegs. That's the spot. That's the rig. That's the bait. Well, what as a carp angler, what are you learning if you replicate?
This is why I was right into carp fishing for years. I loved it, and it was what I'd done a lot of my time with, like, for my sins. But that's what pushed me away from it in the end. But it was almost a foregone conclusion. It was like, if you put a rig in X spot at X time, with the X bait, and you can almost predict the time of the bite and what fish it might have even been. And when you sort of had the fish in the net, you're like, well, I know that fish's name. I know roughly what it's going to weigh. Yeah. Where's the mystery in it? Like, and it's the same with the boats. If you know that, and don't get me wrong, there's certain times we've all had to take advantage of information we've gleaned from elsewhere. But if that's where you're getting all your information from, and you're not truly exploring or creating something yourself, where's the mystery in it? And that loses its shine a little bit for me.
Do you not find that there's a lot of lure anglers who've got a carp fishing mentality?
I think lure fishing, and I don't think it's like I said, I'm trying to say this as non-negatively as possible. There is a lot of ex-carp anglers in lure fishing, and I think carp angling and that style of fishing is much more prevalent here than lure fishing. Lure fishing in the right way is. So they've all been doing it from such a young age, or it's all they see in the media. I guess it's hard to move away from that a bit, and I sort of get it to an extent. And is that just sort of part of the process? And it's frustrating for those that aren't part of that. I get, but is it just the way things are going to evolve?
I think that answers your question you asked earlier. How do we get better?
Yeah,
it's not having this kind of stereotypical carp fishing mentality. It's not.
Yeah,
I reckon really good carp anglers don't think like this. I know.
100%.
I know they don't.
Well, you look at the likes of it's quite stereotypical, but it looks like the likes of Terry Hearn.
Yeah,
true trendsetter, and they're the real legends of the sport. Like all of them have the ones who have really paved ways have done something different.
Innovative. I said it. They're innovative.
Yeah,
but that's right. But you see, because it's like it's just got this kind of no, don't replicate. Don't follow. Don't use the same bait. Don't want to know what retrieve they're doing. That's where we're stuck in England with the lure slip.
Yeah,
because there aren't enough people who are innovating. There are too many replicators, and it's come, I feel, from this kind of. It happens in match fishing. So when I talk to Alex, the match anglers but share information quite happily, which allow other people to get this, like feeding, the amounts they feed, and what baits they're using, and what rigs they're using, and how they're refining rigs. So they're very good at sharing this info. So I think the match fishing scene is far more advanced. But also I think there's a lot of replication that goes on in that as well. And I think it's the innovative side which is so important for keep pushing the boundaries. And I think that's definitely what we're lacking in this country in the lure scene. There's hardly any innovators. There's lots of replicators.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we half finished it off camera. I'm going to bring it up now on my phone. But to give people an idea of what we're up against, and as an angling nation, and we are talking pretty much solely competition here. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Some people won't be interested in competitions, full stop. But it's sort of the bar you set. As an angling nation, if you're good at a competition level, then generally it feeds down, and it feeds down to the hobbyist, if you like.
Yeah.
But like looking at the ones that really we're going to talk about are the kayak, the shore. Well, we don't put a team in for the shore, which is interesting.
Well, let's go to the kayak. So the kayak event, the World Championship of Kayak, is in March.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
Which is just like, how do you even start with the logistics of that?
Well, I went with the kayak team to Italy.
Yeah.
In the summer. That was brilliant. How the hell how are they going to get to Mexico?
Well,
Dave will not be driving his trailer.
No, you can't get the kite to this. And then you've got to, okay, we need to get a contact somehow in Mexico. Does anyone know a Mexican kayaker? I couldn't. Where would you start with that? And then you start thinking, okay, right, Coppola Lake. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. I mean, not that I'm a particularly big on my Mexican angling, but what's it going to be? It's probably going to be bass fishing, maybe tilapia or something like that. Who knows? Like, where? What? You can't go out and practice, can you?
No.
What's 2 weeks in Mexico going to cost you? Thousands, 5, 10 grand, maybe more. Then you got all the gear. You know, what you take your own gear. You flying your gear out there. Where do you even start with that?
You've got no chance.
No. And then going on, so you've got the Predators Shore, which we don't put a team in for, I don't think, which is unusual. Next year's in Poland, which is, you know, one on the relatively normal side of it. At least it's in Europe. But then the following year, 2026, Mongolia. You know, all right, Mongolia's probably going to be Taiman. How many anglers do you know personally that have caught a Taiman that live in the UK? None. I don't know a single one.
You missed ice fishing off the top.
Ice fishing, yeah, because we're strong ice anglers here in England, like.
But yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, we've got the traditional ones. We've got the course angling vets, course angling masters. Yeah, all that.
Which we traditionally did quite well in, I think, as well. Like, but if you come down to the boat, like the boats at the bottom, Estonia next year in October.
I was talking to Adam Senior. I put in a search. If we drive doing a Google Maps route, it's about 30 hours driving one way.
Yeah.
But I think Tom and Kev have sussed out you can get a ferry across the Baltic, which adds another day.
People got to drive.
But you're not doing the driving. Well, adds another half day. So, but again, we're going to get all our boats over there?
No. And then again, like, okay, Estonia. Following years in Italy, which logistically, like the kayak team have done in Italy, it's still difficult, but it's still doable. The year after that is the World Games in South Africa.
I might be retired by then.
I think everyone's going to have to. There has to be a question at some point. Do you put a team in? Do you know what I mean? If it's in South Africa, can you put together a team that's willing to do it? It's got to be a question.
Oh. Charlie's frozen. Oh, look, are you back?
It's got to be a legit. What happened? You're back.
Yeah, the internet froze, mate.
Oh, right. Yeah, I didn't see you for it. I just saw me. Yeah. But I can see you again.
No, we're back. Yeah, so South Africa in 2000.
Jesus. 27, isn't it? No. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Do you even put a team in for that? I don't know. And but who knows where we'll be by 2027? The world, well, if Trump gets in tonight, the world might explode tomorrow. So let's see what happens.
If Trump gets in, right, interest rates will drop over the next 2 years. He's not a politician. He's a businessman. But all the bad press is unbelievable because the money makers want a destabilized world, not a stable world. That's my little tip. Watch this. Honestly, he doesn't want wars because it's bad for business. Anyway, less than politics. Don't do politics. Yes. Street fishing. Wow, they are going to Green Bay in America in 2025. That's a long cast.
That's a hell of a long cast. Again, like street fishing on some a body of water, you know, that sort of vast. Where do you start? Like, where do you start? And again, it's like this logistics of getting everyone there, like, and doing the practice. And all right, we might have half a clue with the fishing. At least it's not in Mongolia, but just logistically, it's a nightmare. But these are all the things you have to consider, you know, and these are all the things you have to think, like, that have to be thought about in the lead up to these things, and in the planning and all everything else that goes with it.
And the following year they're in Holland, so that actually is not so bad at all. But no. If you go down to black bass, that's the one that is going to be that's the interesting one. And I'll tell you why. Because you've got the likes of Scott Martin, Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Connell. Yeah. They're all they are in this event, and they take their cameramen with them. And I know last year when it was in Portugal, I know FIPS-ed had a massive amount of interest in the competition because of the YouTubers.
Yeah.
So, and obviously business will get involved where there's TV coverage.
Yeah.
So I think this is the one to be involved with. So whether we can get the boat team in the Black Bass event as well.
Yeah.
Wow, how good would that be? The only problem is it's in South Africa.
Yeah.
And the following year it's in America.
Yeah.
Again, no chance. How the hell?
It's odd that they're doing. I wonder if that's purposely. They're doing South Africa in 2025 and then the World Games in 2027. Are they doing the one in 2025 as letting people get a look at it and get a lay of it so it's good in 2027?
Yeah, they want the TV coverage, don't they? It's a good idea if you think about it.
And then 2028, possibly Zimbabwe. Who knows? Interesting though. It's interesting. It's all interesting stuff.
Mate, we could come last in Estonia quite easily.
Yeah.
And for no fault of anybody's, it's going to be rock hard fishing. I
think it's going to be a really difficult one. Like knowing, like, to Estonia is sort of across the way from Finland, isn't it? It's that sort of area. And I think, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating from what I've sort of heard and seen in videos and online. I think it'll probably be a lot of small fish. I think it'll be a numbers game. I don't think there'll be much in the way of big fish.
There's
I think
there's pike in there.
Is there? Yeah.
But it's very shallow. It's 1 to 2 metres deep. It's massive water.
Is it?
You can't live scope doesn't work in too shallow water. So it's going to be. When I say live scope, because when we go into these new waters, you can break them down real quick. You can live scope it. If you can't use the tech, you are screwed.
Yeah.
Because you've got to rely on watercraft side imaging, which takes a lot longer. Not quite so accurate. It's still pretty good if you've got it dialed in, but yeah, it's going to be
interesting.
Very, very difficult, I feel. So
well, we'll see what happens next year, I guess. But
yeah. Oh man, but wow. We considering we didn't have a plan for a topic.
No, we've rattled on there a bit. Should we move swiftly on? Otherwise, we'll be on that all night, I think.
Yeah, we've been doing 40 minutes already, I think. So
what was the next on the agenda?
Let's go to Derwent Bank Con that you organised.
Yes. So as most people watching will know, I now reside in the northeast of England, and my place of work is Derwent Reservoir in County Durham. And when I first moved up here, it was evident there was a handful of pike being caught, and it was just a handful. You know, it wasn't loads of fish being caught, and they wasn't very big. A lot of them were jacks, you know, to put it quite plainly. And it's a hard one because the northeast in general, when and anyone who's been to the northeast and visited some of the waters here, you think these have got to be riddled with pike. They look like they should be. They should be everywhere, but they're just not. There's not that many waters with good pike fishing in numbers or size in the northeast. It's quite lacking, actually. A lot of people prefer to go up to Scotland or across to the lakes rather than spending any time in northeast fishing. So it was, for me, it seemed like there was something that we could do from from my own angling and somewhere close to home for me to fish, and B, from a commercial point of view, as the reservoir, you know, it gives it another string to the bow and it gives it a little bit of resiliency for the future. So we sort of explored the idea of that, and I pushed it and done a lot towards growing the local sort of pike angling community, and that sort of culminated in September. We ran a pike comp, and I'm not exaggerating and how I say it. I had no idea how this was going to go. You know, we could have had 100 people turn up, we could have had no people turn up, and I wouldn't have known. We didn't do any sort of pre-registration or anything. It was just however many people turned up on the day, paid their money, and went fishing was going to be. So we ended up having 48 anglers turn up, which for a little bank comp on a 1,000-acre reservoir, reminded people, you know, it's a big piece of water. It's quite intimidating. I was really pleased. And it was a good mix of relatively experienced anglers who had half a clue of what they're doing, who would, like I say, do most of their pike fishing further away from home. And then there was a good mix of like new or newer anglers who maybe just taken it up recently or wanting to get better at it and figured, you know, being involved with something else is a good opportunity to rub shoulders with people. They might be able to pick some bits up off of, you know, be it you know, just someone to go fishing with or some new ideas and new tactics. So it was good. That bit of it was brilliant. I was really pleased. The fishing, on the other hand, was really, really tough, which it always is in these comps. You know, the previous 3 weeks leading up to the competition the fishing had been really good. There was a lot of fish getting caught. Most days you could go and catch 3 or 4 fish, if you're just sort of pleasure fishing, and it wasn't really a worry. And then the day of the comp turned up, and the 2 weeks leading up to it, the water levels flew up. A lot of the areas where fish were getting caught were now inaccessible because you couldn't get to them, and it made it really tough. And I think, I'll have to look back on the actual results, but I think out of the 48 anglers, there was 8 fish caught, which is obviously not a fantastic rod average, but that's these comps for you. Sometimes that's the way they goes.
Yeah.
But the nice thing was there was a handful of good fish caught. So the guys that won did really, really well. There was a pair of guys, a pair of mates who fished together and really just smashed it. The guy who won it had, I won't remember this off the top of my head, had an 86, a 70 something, and then a jack 56 or 60 something, I think. So he won it, and then his pal who came second done really well and had a 94 and a 91 and lost a fish as well. So if he'd have had his third fish, he'd have smashed it, but he couldn't. He didn't get his third fish to fill the card. And these fish, I'll ping Andy some photos so we can overlay them. These fish are fat. They're very, very, very full fish, and interestingly, they're obviously very young fish that have got big quick because the heads aren't keeping up with the body. They've got very small heads, very, very, very deep bodies. Not quite obviously hitting like huge lengths yet, but for a reservoir that at the beginning of the year was doing only jacks really, to do a couple of 90s in a comp and an 86, I'm very pleased with. So it was good, and everyone had a brilliant day. Even those guys that caught now really enjoyed themselves. So, unfortunately, it was quite windy, which made it difficult in other places. But that's the nature of fishing these big reservoirs. It was good. It was good. The general feeling was good, and it's hopefully created a few more pike anglers in the northeast that can now sort of help grow the scene a bit more.
I think it's amazing you had that many people turn up.
How many bank comps can you think of where nearly 50 people turn up? Not that many.
So I've got a couple of questions for you. Your employers, are they quite open to you suggesting different things to them? Because you've had that and the kayak comp so far.
Yeah, no, they're fully supportive of it. They've pretty much given me free rein to sort of really push the pike fishing, and it's not just. It's really hard because I have an angler's brain, but I also have to have a commercial brain when it comes to this because it's a business and it needs to. If it was me and my own fishing, I wouldn't be telling a soul. If I had this little bit of fishing on my doorstep, it'd be great, and I'd have it all to myself. But you have to balance that, and I have to know that it is a commercial business. And if I want them to keep supporting the fishery and continue in what I want to do, it has to also be popular.
And that's where we are now, isn't it? That's where
it's a hard balance. Yeah. It's a hard balance, but it is 1,000 acres of water, and there's no, as things stand, there's no boats or anything on. The fish don't get hammered; they can't get hammered.
There must be some big fish on there that have never seen a bait roller.
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of the year, it was really only jacks getting caught. Even through the entirety of the winter last year, there's quite a few people dead baiting. Hardly any big fish were caught. I can't think of anything that big, 13, 14 pounds, maybe the biggest. And in the past 5-6 weeks, we've had at least 8 different 20s that I know about. One of our regulars, a guy called Sean, he had a 99 centimetre last week, which weighed 21 something. The guy who's holding the current venue record is 23 pound. So for a relatively young fishery in pike fishing terms, I'm really pleased, and just hope that it continues for as long as it possibly can. Basically,
I'm sure. Well, it's probably not a very young pike fishery, mate, but it's young in the fact that you're kind of like opening it up. And,
I don't know. It's a hard one because I think there's always been pike in there since day dot. And I get asked this question a lot, like, where did the pike come from? And the honest truth is no one really knows the answer. They just are there. And I speak to some of the old fly anglers who've been fishing there since the 70s. And they say, we used to catch them in the 70s and 80s, occasionally. Unfortunately, back then, the done thing was to knock them on the head. Thankfully, we're past that now. It's seen as the antiquated process that is, and even those fisheries that do want to control pike numbers, they've learned it's not the way to do it. But so there was pike back then, and there is obviously a lot of pike in there now, and there's been a boom at some point for whatever reason. There's been something that's balanced and worked out. There's a lot of food one year, or the spawning conditions were good, and there's a lot of fish. There's a lot of fish in that sort of 3 to 8 pound range. Lots and lots and lots of them. In the summer, you can go and catch 10, 12, 15 of them, and it's quite doable between a couple of you.
It's going to be there, mate, this is
there'll be some big ones. Yeah, if there's been a handful of 20s caught from the bank, just people chucking, and they've all been caught on lures. None of these big ones have been caught on bait. If there's a few 20s caught from the bank, then who knows what's accessible if you could actually get on the water and pick it apart properly.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is as well is it's injected a bit of life back into the fishery, and this is casting no aspersions to the people that come before me there, but the fishery has been a trout fishery in forever, and it's just been a trout fishery, and has done nothing else. It's ticked over, and I think it's quite fair to say that, and I don't think anyone would disagree with me on that. It's just done its thing, and it's just continued, and it's not really gone up or down or anything. It's just sort of continued, but it's breathed a bit of new life into the venue, and you feel it of talking to the anglers, even to the trout anglers who may have one time have been a really anti-pike angling. They're quite impressed by the whole thing, and it's allowed us to do new things like the tackle shop on site. When I first sort of went in, it was in the nicest possible way. It was on its arse. It was nobody's fault. It just didn't have the personnel there who understood the tackle industry well enough to be able to stock it with stuff that people want to buy. So it was down to dubious reps from companies that wanted to shift on the cheap crap they've got, and lots of it. So it was full of stuff that would never sell, been sitting there for 2 or 3 years. There was loads of it for not a lot of money, but nobody wanted it, so it didn't matter what it cost. And now we've got to a point where we've got some really good high quality lure brands. We've got things like, I'm not exaggerating, at the beginning of the year most of the stuff was in there was Fladden or some other sort of cheap brand. Now we've got like really top end lure brands like Rapala and Mollix and Z-Man and all these brands that you expect to see in actual like high end like quality lure shops, and now they're available for people to come and buy. And the nice thing is, even if you don't want to come fishing there's not a lot of options locally as far as lure fishing tackle goes. So it's become a bit of a venue for people to come buy their stuff to go and fish elsewhere, which is nice. It's good for me.
Do you stock Kitech?
We've just taken Kitech on recently, actually.
Well, I wonder why.
there's 7 packs of the 2.8 inch black Kitech impact fats.
Yes.
They're sitting on the shelf, and I've been eyeing them up. I know I've got my own reserve, so if someone will buy them soon, I'll probably be buying them myself.
Yeah, I know you will.
Yeah, but we've got, and there's all sorts of things to explore with the trout fish as well. When I started, the trout fishing was pretty much exclusively either fly, bait, or pretty crude lure fishing, so like big tobies and spinners and things like that. And now we're stocking like proper light, ultra light lure fishing stuff. We've got like some major craft rods. We've got like major craft Eden, like proper Japanese imported baits, which people wouldn't have even ever seen before. So it's another nice arm to the fishery, which wasn't there a year ago.
It's to your credit, mate, because you've been the driving force behind this. And, but I think it's good that your employers let you do it as well. So it kind of works well between the partnership.
It's nice. It's nice to see results from the effort I'm putting into it, and B, like you say, it's nice to know I've got the support of the guys above me who trust me, and they didn't from the start. Don't get me wrong. I may have even said it on this podcast before. They was unsure. They wasn't convinced, and it's taken me. Yeah, I mean, when I first went in, like I said, most of what they had was cheap, and the thought was the local population of anglers didn't want to spend money on fishing gear.
Yeah.
So when I went in and ordered some new gear, and it wasn't expensive on mine and your sort of scale of what is and what isn't expensive, I think I ordered a couple of rod combos, like a rod and reel combo, which may have been 60 to 70 quid, which for me and you is a couple of packs of lures. I got a bit of a rollicking for it. Like, they'll never sell them. People won't buy them. They won't spend that on tackle here. And now we're selling £400 combos with no real problem. And like Rapala lures, which are 20 to 25 quid a pop, maybe 30 quid a pop. I cannot keep them on the shelves. It's really indicative of that thing. If it's not there, people can't buy it. And if you show them why it's good, they understand it, and people have got that money to spend.
No, it's good, mate. I think it's all promotes lure fishing, and in an area perhaps where it's not so highly done. Highly done? What's the word?
It's not so prevalent. It's not as popular as it is in other parts of the country. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's a good shout. Right, I'm conscious of the time, buddy. Should we crack on with the last two things quickly?
Yeah, I haven't got a clue what they were. I can't remember what we said now.
It was the two LES events. So
yes, I know you touched on it already.
Yeah, we actually got back from Ireland, and then it was a Chew, which was really interesting. So I know the committee and Alex Mason in particular had worked really hard at allowing us to get onto Chew for a comp. So that was on the Saturday. So it had been open for a trial for the whole week. So there was guys debating and lure fishing anyway throughout the week. And then we were on there for the Saturday. And I think there was about 27 pairs, I want to say. Really good fun. Can't remember the results, but I know Kev Cox and Dave Moir won it. So that was good. I know where we came a lowly fifth. I think we were third with an hour to go, but we could not get. We needed one big fish just to push ourselves up. It was interesting though, Charlie. We caught loads of pike, but they're all small.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, 65, 70s to mid to low 80s, I think. But I can't remember now. But I went around all the areas where I fly fished it for big fish. Couldn't see any big images at all. So just scattered around the Friday, had a lovely day. Me and Dan Bradley just messing about going around in live scopes, which I've never done before in Chew, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
And sussing out other areas that I'd only kind of not sort of like brushed over on a big fly fishing. Could not see any big fish at all. And I'd heard a rumour that there'd been a big fish kill in the summer. Now, I don't know how true this is. I do know of fish up to 33 pounds that have come out.
There was a 34 caught yesterday.
So obviously some big fish still in there. But it was a bit worrying how normally in a live scope there's not much that can hide.
No.
So there must be some fish in there that we didn't find, but I think the longest fish was about a metre caught in the comp. Yeah. Which is not that big, is it? So
not on Chew standards, no.
That was really good fun though, and I had curry 3 nights running just for the.
Did you stay in your van, or did you stay in the place that me and you stayed?
Yeah, same Airbnb that we stayed at. That's brilliant. Yeah. And obviously I went to Stoke and had curry 3 nights running. Oh man, mate.
Granddad's place?
No, I didn't have some cider the first night. I had a most banging hangover.
No, right.
Yeah, mate, my diet's gone through the roof. I've put on about 3 kilos since Ireland. It's ridiculous. Anyway, then we had the Predator Cup on Rutland weekend before last. So that was, again, really good event. It was perch, pike and zander. You needed 4 perch, 4 zander and 2 pike for the card. The Perch Cup was also being fished for on the Saturday. So it was a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. The Perch Cup was being fished for on Saturday. Basically, longest perch won it. So I think that's what I mentioned earlier. My boat partner was Dan Brackley. We smashed out 4 perch pretty quick. We had 5 actually, but we had 4 of 45 centimetres each. What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
So I had 3 of the 45s. He had 1 of the 45s. He had 43 as well. And then we went pike fishing. This is where it got silly. I thought I'd worked out a method for catching the pike. It wasn't working. And I was watching other anglers, heads and screens, trying to worry the pike to death. And I think we had a conversation about this, about one of the things that I'm really good at is going back to old school pike fishing.
Yeah.
We just did a kind of a different way of doing that. I was using monster baits.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I just got to get these lazy bastards to move. Oh my God, as soon as I started doing this, I was getting followed straight to the boat. They weren't taking, but I had some really big fish come up to the boat, and I said to Dan, it's only a matter of time. Bang! I had 117. It went £31.12.
Wow.
Yeah, that was hell of a fight. It was, what fish. Immaculate. And then a few minutes later, Dan had a 106.25.12, I think it was. So we had 223 for the pike. We then just knew we were way ahead of everybody. We actually went perch fishing again for half an hour, but could see that nothing was going to happen. We then went zander fishing for the last 3/4 of an hour. We caught one straight away. Yeah, so that was we had 468 on the card. No one was anywhere near us, so we knew we'd won it.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get the 3 zander the next day. But as I said earlier, we could not get this angler to respond. I think 3 zander were caught over the 2 days.
Really?
Which is
weird, isn't it?
I don't know why they switched off, but like I said, really good lure anglers would have caught them. I know them. So that's frustration. Anyway, big shout out to the LES. The prizes, wow. Life jackets. I know for the Chew event and for the Rutland event, the top 3 teams got life jackets each. They're nice.
Wow.
What's the one I've got with the clip? The
Cruiseover?
Yeah, so they were those. So I've got a spare one now, which I was really. My other one keeps going off, so that was brilliant.
Cool.
I've got a rod and a reel. Got so many cool prizes, and I thought, wow, they tried really hard. And vouchers from the Lure Box and from Predator Tackle. So big shout out to those companies. That was really cool as well.
Wicked.
Cool. So that's that. And I think the LAS have got something called the Caveman Cup. I don't even know what that is.
It's on Pattersfield Park. Because I got asked to fish it by Bradley, but I'm working that weekend, unfortunately. In the Caveman Cups, there's no electronics allowed.
Yeah, so guess what?
What? It's an interesting venue. That I think it's got history of a couple of really big pike, really big. From what I could be totally wrong on it, someone will probably correct me. I'm sure it's done some really big pike in the past. It's in Wolverhampton.
See, because I Rutland didn't use the electronics to catch these fish, but you use the electronics to know where they were, roughly. So on a comp, you haven't got time to mess about. You need to bring it down. And they've got a bank competition as well. Can you remember what that one is?
Yeah. No.
Guys, if you get in touch with Emma Sarah Evans, she's organising the bank comp. She'll sort you out. And I know she's been posting stuff on Facebook about it. So,
if they need another venue in the North East, I've got one for them.
Have you? What's that?
Derwent. Yeah. If they want to do a bank comp up at Derwent, we'll put one on for them. We've got a couple of venues up here that will work well for them. So if Emma's watching and she wants to drop me a message, we can do some bits up here.
That would be cool. Cool. Right, Tom Moir's gone missing.
Oh, he's going away. He's gone to Denmark, is he? And then Belgium.
Oh, he's now in with Weston.
I know. I heard. Yeah. He's too important for us.
Tom Hunt's best mate now.
Oh, he's moved on from us. He's gone on to better things.
Left us behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bradley, I forgot to message him about doing something. It's his own fault for the wader escapade, which we're not mentioning on air.
No.
But I think what we'll do for this week, we'll just miss that out. Sorry,
we'll go back to the old school, just me and you, and then we'll rev ourselves back up to more modern times. Yeah,
we'll get Moir back on for a couple of weeks' time. We'll get Bradley back on, and we'll see what's going on. Cool. Yeah. Right. Is there anything else you want to add, mate?
No. This we've been waffling on too much anyway. Let's wrap it up.
We've done an hour, so if you're still watching, guys, you've done
well done.
You've done really well. Right. Let's bring it to end. We'll see everybody probably in a couple of weeks.
See you later, guys.